eyes are open now. Won't slow you down, won't slow you down. She want me never on the road, and yet I get her when I go. Want me forever getting close, but like me better when I close down. So many meetups gotta hold down, so many meetings on the road now. I gotta leave her for the show, but she really saying no. She believe I gotta slow. Just try to know. I need a moment on the island, no. I need to know where every vibe can go. I need a moment where the time is slow, but she told me slow down on crypto. She doesn't know this is it though. Need a vacation from the big show. Need a vacation from the get-go. She told me slow down on crypto. The market is a give go. I get more. I'm living on the world tour to score more. Retired from the board floor. I'm more for it. They're telling me to slow down, but not now. The minute that it goes down, I buy out. Got another tour stop, but never where the tour stop. The tour stop. I just try to know. I need a moment on the island though. I need to know where every vibe can go. I need a moment where the time is slow, but she told me slow down on crypto. She doesn't know this is it though. Need a vacation from the big show. Need a vacation from the get-go. She told me slow down on crypto. She doesn't know this is it though. Need a vacation from the big show. Need a vacation from the get-go. She told me slow down on I won't slow you down. I'll try to hold you down. My eyes are open now. Won't slow you down. Won't slow you down.
Token Metrics is a cryptocurrency investment platform that helps users leverage machine learning to become better crypto investors. Our in-depth analysis helps eliminate the emotions of investing, find profitable investment opportunities, and filters out scams. Learn more at tokenmetrics.com. Disclaimer: Token Metrics Media LLC does not provide individually tailored investment advice and does not take a subscriber's or anyone's personal circumstance into consideration when discussing investments. Nor is it registered as an investment advisor or broker-dealer in any jurisdiction. Information contained herein is not an offer or solicitation to buy, hold, or sell any security. The Token Metrics team has advised and invested in many blockchain companies. A complete list of their advisory roles and current holdings can be viewed here at tokenmetrics.com/disclosures.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. I'm Ian Belina, and today we have a legend in the house. We have Bitcoin Jesus himself, the founder of Bitcoin Cash, Roger Ver. How are you, Roger?
So thank you, Ian, but I have to give a timeout right there. A lot of people in the media say I'm the founder of Bitcoin Cash. I had absolutely nothing to do with the creation of Bitcoin Cash. I had nothing to do with the creation of Bitcoin Cash, just like I had nothing to do with the creation of Bitcoin. But I'm a fan. I was a fan of Bitcoin because it used to work as peer-to-peer electronic cash. I'm a fan of Bitcoin Cash today because it works as peer-to-peer electronic cash. So that's a thing I see in the media a lot, that I'm the founder or the creator of Bitcoin Cash. Had absolutely nothing to do with the creation of it. If anything, I was a little bit late to the party, just like I was with Bitcoin compared to the early people.
So sorry. Yeah. So
no problem. People say it and then it just gets repeated and it goes, on and on, over and over and over. So I try to put a stop to it anytime I hear that thing. So special thanks to the people that did create BTC and BCH both. So
yeah, I mean, well, it's a pleasure having you on. You are definitely quite well known in the space. I mean, you've been around since almost the beginning. So just being able to even speak to you and have a live stream AMA with our community is awesome. So first thing first, how are things with you? Hope everything is well.
Yeah, I'm not sick, so that's a good thing. And I hope the same is true for you as well and all the watchers. Like, I imagine we'll touch on coronavirus at some point in the talk today, but yeah, things are good.
All right, so this is going out to both our channels online on YouTube, also on Twitter, also on Periscope. So if you have any questions, feel free to just ask them in the chat, or also go to menti.com, MENTI.com, and enter the code 347512. And that's 347512 to ask your questions live on the air. So let's assume we have lots of people who haven't heard of you for some reason. Take us through your background. So, who is Roger Ver?
Yeah, actually, I think that's fine because there are lots of people that haven't heard of me. If you know you're new to crypto, you'll have no idea who I am or what any of this is all about, and maybe the only thing you will have heard is some negative stuff about me out there. But the person I am is I was the very first person in the entire world to start investing in and promoting this ecosystem in a big way. I had my own business in Silicon Valley called Memory Dealers, which became way back in 2011. It became the first actual established business that started accepting Bitcoin for payments. So we started, I put up a billboard in the heart of Silicon Valley on the side of St. Lawrence Expressway there, advertising that we accepted Bitcoin. I started paying for radio ads on more than 100 stations across America, advertising Bitcoin. I paid to produce all sorts of radio ads there as well. If you go on YouTube and search for Bitcoin radio ad from 2011, you'll hear the ad that we're out there. And that we were, I was paying out of my own pocket to promote this. But then I put up the seed money to start all sorts of businesses. The most well-known ones today probably are blockchain.com, bitpay.com, kraken.com, ripple.com, and then a bunch more that went out of business and didn't make it. But BitInstant is probably one of the most common ones that's still known a little bit that didn't make it. But there's been a bunch of those too. So basically all by myself. I was the lone voice in the wilderness saying, everybody look at Bitcoin. This is going to change the entire world. This is one of the most important inventions ever in the entire history of humankind. And so I took all the money that I had earned from my business in Silicon Valley and started investing that in the first generation startups that made Bitcoin and brought the entire cryptocurrency ecosystem to where it is today. And so it's been a wild journey and path there. And I've never, ever been a Bitcoin maximalist, though. Even in 2011 and 12, people were asking me, well, what happens if something better than Bitcoin comes along? And I said, great, I hope something does, just like I hope something better than my iPhone comes along, because then I'll be able to switch to that, and the entire world will have something even better to be able to use. And so I think this whole maximalism is really a misguided thing. You should be a competition maximalism or an improvement maximalist, not
absolutely.
This thing is the best thing forever and it never needs to change. That's ridiculous nonsense.
Now let's go back to the beginning. So what about Bitcoin really made you fall in love with Bitcoin?
Yeah, so I heard about it for the first time in reference to the Silk Road. And I heard that people were buying and selling illegal drugs using something called Bitcoin. And I had no interest in the drugs, but I thought, what the heck kind of money could they possibly be using for this? What kind of payment system works? Because you can't use a credit card, you can't use PayPal, they're going to shut you down right away. You can't use wire transfers, easily, they're going to catch you so easily. What kind of money could they possibly be using for this? So I Googled Bitcoin in reference to how it was being used on the Silk Road. And then once I wrapped my head around that there wasn't any central controlling entity, there wasn't some, bank vault that could go and be raided and have, the gold seized out of it or the dollar seized out of it. Once I wrapped my head around the fact that this was the decentralized platform that couldn't be shut down any more than you can shut down the internet in the entire world, and that there was a limited supply of these Bitcoins, I knew without any doubt in my mind whatsoever that people were just naturally going to start using them as money to buy and sell and pay for things using this Bitcoin. And if that was the case, the more people that started using it to buy and sell and pay for things in commerce, the more of a reason there is for more people to hold these Bitcoins. And because the supply is limited, as people hold their Bitcoins so that they have the ability to spend them later, the price will go up and up and up over time. And the price going up is a wonderful, wonderful side effect of people being able to use it in commerce. And if you strip away the ability to use it in commerce, that strips away the reason for people to hold it. And the part that became really exciting for me, though, too, as a really long time libertarian and free market advocate, is this is a technology that strips away the power of not just the American government, not just the Chinese government, not just the Russian government, but strips away the power of every single government on the planet to manipulate and control and stifle the world's economy from growing as quickly as it otherwise would be. And the only way that anybody can improve the standard of living in the world as a whole is through economic growth. And if you're doing things that hinder economic growth, you're literally retarding the rate of progress of the entire world. So this became the best tool that the entire world has ever seen to unleash the power of the market and raise everybody's standard of living up and up and up across the entire planet, not just in one particular jurisdiction. So it felt like this thing I'd been waiting for my entire life finally came into existence. I wanted to spend every waking moment and every dollar that I had at that point to promote this idea and this product and this tool to bring more economic freedom to the world. And that's what I did.
Yeah. Amazing. Now, did you ever have maybe any doubt or maybe any challenges as you were trying to evangelize Bitcoin early on, and really being the first adopter in a way?
Yeah, I know. Of course, there are lots of people saying this is stupid. Why are you wasting your time on it? Go on to something else. But I remember one of the, fun moments, I guess. I was talking to another friend of mine, telling him all about Bitcoin. This is probably like March of 2011, March, April, May, somewhere in that point. They're still just a couple bucks each. And I'm telling him all about it. So this is amazing. This is going to change everything. And he was not convinced. In fact, he replied to me with a very sarcastic tone in his voice. He said, "Roger, if you think Bitcoins are so great, why don't you buy more of them?" And I replied to him, I said, "You're right." And so the next day I went out and bought even more. So he was trying to dissuade me from buying Bitcoins, but in reality, he actually persuaded me to buy even more Bitcoin. So I should thank him for that even more. So.
Okay. Now let's kind of go back even further. So what companies did you launch? So you mentioned you had memory dealers. It was a PC memory company?
Yep. So I was selling computer parts, and then there was another company that most people don't know, but it was actually the main product line that Memory Dealers was selling were products called AgileStar. And it's really fun. If you go on eBay today, you can see a whole bunch of old, used AgileStar parts that are still for sale on there. And it's really fun because those were my parts, and we sold them to people all over the world. And that was the main product line that Memory Dealers was selling were these AgileStar parts. And but both businesses were run out of the same building and kind of shared a number of employees and overlap. But it was really, really fun to see, our products being used from, everybody from, the home users to NASA, literally was ordering parts from us. So it's really fun to see our parts just getting used all over the world.
So how did you build that up from the ground up? Did you have prior experience? Did you just become a first-time entrepreneur?
Yeah, I guess it was just kind of a first-time entrepreneur type person, but I had a series of, entrepreneurs in my family. My grandfather specifically really started Woods Equipment Company, was one of the very first motorized, tractors and plowing stuff. And this was, back during the Great Depression, so long before my time. But that wound up actually being merged into John Deere. And John Deere is a company that lots of people have heard of today. And then he did another company later called Time-O-Matic. So if you see all those time and temperature signs out in front of banks and stuff, they had a big share of that market as well. So I come from a history of entrepreneurs there, and I guess to some extent it was in my blood. But I always enjoyed reading about business and economics as a young man, and then even in elementary school, I was buying and selling candy bars. I'd buy the candy bars at Costco and sell the candy bars to other kids at school because kids would rather deal with another kid rather than some big scary adult at the snack bar line. So I've always been looking for places where you can buy something for less and sell it for more. And if you think about it, a lot of people don't realize it, but that's all any business is you're taking something from where it's worth less and moving it to where it's worth more, whether it's a grocery store or selling candy bars or even, making podcasts. You're taking people's time from where it's worth less to where it's worth more and producing content that people want to consume, and you can, pop some advertising in there. So that's all any business anywhere in the world is taking things from where it's worth less and moving it to where it's worth more. And a business that's successful succeeds in doing that. A business that fails has the opposite effect. They're taking things from where it's worth more and moving it to where it's worth less. And when that happens, you run out of money real quick and you have to find something else to do. And that's kind of the beauty of this pricing system. And when prices are allowed to transmit the information, everybody all over the world magically, seemingly, gets to coordinate with everybody else to produce the most efficient amount of stuff for the most number of people around the world, even though they've never met or talked or interacted with each other at all. It's the pricing system that transmits all that information all over the globe. And so if you understand just how incredibly important the fact that prices and money are at transmitting information across literally every single person on the planet, it's really one of the most amazing things, period, right? I think it's right there on par with as amazing as, the first, life organism. There's a fantastic essay I implore people to read. It's called I, Pencil, written by Leonard Reed. And it talks about how there's not a single person alive on the planet that knows how to make a pencil. And at first you hear that and you think, well, what do you mean nobody knows how to make a pencil? A pencil is so simple and easy. Anybody can make a pencil. If you think about it, a pencil is amazingly complex, right? Even you have the yellow paint that's on the outside of the pencil. Where do they get the pigment to make the paint? What do they mix it with? What sort of machines do they have to do to make the paint? The machines are made out of like iron that's dug out of the ground somewhere else, that's powered with like gasoline that's pumped from oil out of the ground that goes to some refinery with all the people working at the refinery, and who knows how much stuff goes into that. And then there's the rubber tip at the end of the pencil that goes, from, I guess, rubber trees in Indonesia and then put on ships somewhere else. And there's just these huge, amazing amount of supply lines. And then like the graphite that's in the middle of the pencil, that has to be dug out of the ground somewhere else. And who knows what process that goes through to be, shoved into the middle of this wooden thing around the outside of the pencil. And he goes into all the details of like the pencil. And by the time you finish reading the story of, of how a pencil gets made from the point of view of the pencil, you realize, wow, there isn't a single person alive on the planet that knows how to make a pencil. And if nobody knows how to make a pencil, imagine how, absolutely nobody knows how to make an iPhone or a computer or, the earphone that's in my ear. And it's absolutely amazing. And prices facilitate all that. And the money, the flow of money and the prices of that money are what facilitate all of that flow of information so people can figure out what resources should be used to produce what things. And anytime the government gets in the way and disrupts the flow of that information and the flow of those prices, they're stifling the free speech of that information to make the world a better place. They're literally strangling the world from being as good of a place as it otherwise could have been. So I really love that essay called iPencil. If you don't want to read an essay, there's YouTube videos where somebody will read it to you. It's a fantastic, eye-opening piece of knowledge that everybody should spend a moment to go over. So.
Wow. So it's called iPencil? Is the essay?
Yeah, it's called iPencil. It's like myself, right? I, myself, and me, or whatever. It's the story of a pencil told from the point of view of the pencil going into the creation. It's really an amazing story.
Wow. I mean, so you definitely have a way with business and really breaking down systems and structures. I can tell. Yeah,
and I guess I want to talk on a little bit. Like it's just heartbreaking when I see all these people on the internet are just furious that somebody's charging too much money for toilet paper or somebody's charging too much money for a hand sanitizer. But no, if the prices transmit the information that the market needs to know in order to figure out what people want to have produced, right? And so if you stifle the prices from being able to change, they're not able to transmit the information that people need to know. So like if the price of hand sanitizer or the price of toilet paper goes up, that's a signal to all these people all over the world, hey, we should make more hand sanitizer. We should make more toilet paper. We should ship them to these areas that have the higher prices so that we can sell them for more money. So, and an example of this is happening exactly. So with my old company, Memory Dealers, we had a bunch of factories we dealt with in China to make these electronic parts for us, these computer parts. One of them just emailed me a couple of days ago saying, due to the coronavirus and the shortage of face masks, we've now pivoted our factory to start making face masks. Would you be interested in being a distributor for our face masks? Because you used to buy the computer parts from us. And I thought that's an amazing first-person example of these prices sending that signal out to the world. Oh, there's a shortage of face masks. If the price is allowed to go up, people that used to produce something else for their factories will now start producing face masks. And we saw that there was some pillow manufacturer in the U.S. He just pivoted from making pillows and used the same machinery that he makes to make pillows. Now he's making face masks in the factory. And it's really amazing how if the prices are allowed to change, that means they're allowed to transmit the information so that the market can adapt. But if the prices of face masks aren't allowed to go up, or toilet paper or hand sanitizer, then nobody's going to change what they're doing. And there's not going to be an increased supply of these things. There's going to be a shortage. And a lot of people are really mad. Oh, toilet paper used to cost $5 and somebody's selling it for $50. Well, it's better to be able to buy toilet paper at $50 than to not be able to buy it at all at any price. Like if the price is $5, but the store is completely sold out, what good does that do? And when the price is allowed to go up, that means the people that only really want whatever the product is are going to buy it. Whereas if the price is just the same as normal, people are going to hoard it and then you'll be sold out. So it's really, really important to allow the prices to change and then transmit that information through the change in prices. So sorry for ranting on and on about that, but it's so frustrating when I see the masses on the internet, railing. It's, oh, they're changing the price. It's like, that's great that the prices are changing. That's how the market can react to provide the goods and services that people want.
Now, I mean, so just hearing your talk, I can tell you seem to be inspired by Austrian economics and free markets, libertarian principles. I think most people in crypto really kind of ascribe to the same principles of having free markets as well.
Yeah, I think a lot of them. Now the cryptocurrency system is so big, and there's millions or tens of millions of people around the world involved. But when I first got involved, they were all really hardcore free market Austrian economic libertarian voluntarist types of people. And so for me, it felt like this is my homecoming. I found the people that see the world the same way that I do. But now that the ecosystem is so much bigger, there's lots of people that aren't libertarian free market leaning at all. Which is fine, and that's the world that we live in, and that's a sign that cryptocurrency has gotten popular. But it's interesting. So like we've seen a bunch of people come into cryptocurrency now that haven't done the reading. They've never read Ludwig von Mises. They haven't read Milton Friedman. They haven't read any of these people, and so maybe they had like a general leaning towards free markets. But if you haven't done the reading, you can't really understand deeply just how incredibly important these things are. And there's one guy. It's, I won't give his name, but he's one of these prominent Bitcoin core maximalists, and he was calling me a Keynesian. And I've read John Maynard Keynes' The General Theory of Money and Credit from cover to cover, and he was trying to claim that he's an Austrian and that I'm a Keynesian. I asked him, well, have you ever even read John Maynard Keynes? And he says, I'm not going to answer that question, right? And I said, well, have you ever read Mises? He said, I'm not going to answer that question. And so it just seems bizarre that these people are having such strong opinions when you haven't done any of the required reading for it. So one of my favorite economists and favorite thinkers in the world, period, Murray Rothbard, and I would recommend anybody read any books by Murray Rothbard. But he said a couple of decades ago, he said there's absolutely nothing wrong with being ignorant about economics. After all, it's referred to as the dismal science. But and I'm paraphrasing here, but he says, but it's absolutely horrible for people to have loud, giant opinions about topics on economics while remaining in a state of ignorance about them. So it's like, I'm not going to tell the space shuttle engineers how they should design the O-rings on their space shuttle because I haven't gone to engineering school for that sort of thing to figure it out. So like if I started having super loud opinions about that, like I should be shunned or laughed at for that. But like now there's all these people that have all sorts of opinions about how money should work and how the economy should be structured and this, that, and they haven't done any of the required studying to actually have an informed opinion about that sort of thing. And that's what we're seeing right now again too. Everybody's all excited, oh, the government's printing trillions and trillions of dollars. They're going to do this and they're going to do that. Like if printing money could make the world a richer place, why is there anybody poor in the entire world at all, right? We could have just printed money decades ago and everybody would be rich. And the reality is that money is just the measuring stick that we use within the economy to figure out what goods should be used to produce what other goods and who should get those goods. And if you all of a sudden, and on a normal ruler or tape measure, the little slots on it or stripes on it or they're set distance apart. So when you measure something today and you measure it tomorrow, if it's 12 inches today, it's 12 inches tomorrow. But when you go and print $1 zillion and pump it into the economy, it's like you're suddenly changing the spacing between the lines on the ruler. And what you were measuring today with the ruler, you're going to get a different result measuring that rule with that same ruler tomorrow. And it causes a misallocation of all sorts of resources, and the information that's sent by the pricing signals get disrupted and distorted, and the resources get misallocated, and all sorts of things that otherwise wouldn't have been produced get produced, and things that shouldn't have been produced get produced. And it's a giant mess for everybody. Yet that's what the politicians are busy doing, full speed ahead. I think they feel like, oh, something bad is happening. We better do anything. Never mind the fact that what we're doing is just going to make the problem worse. And it's frustrating to see that. So that's where we're at today.
So what do you think about, you've kind of answered the question, but what do you think about the current climate we're in with coronavirus and what's going on? And people think that the global recession is coming. We're heading into possible stagflation here in America with rising inflation based off of quantitative easing and also the upcoming recession. So what's your take on that kind of, how do you think crypto will be affected?
Yeah, I think the global recession absolutely is coming. I mean, they've shut down basically, a big giant chunk of the world's economy, and there's no light at the end of the tunnel yet. Like, who knows when they're going to allow people to get back to work? And I feel like a lot of these people don't understand that, like, iPhones don't produce themselves, food don't produce themselves, houses don't produce themselves. All these things don't just produce themselves. If the central bank could just go and print a bunch of money and send it to everybody every day, and nobody's busy producing the goods that money buys, the price of those goods are going to skyrocket, right? Or there's going to be shortages because those things have to get produced. And so I have zero training in the field of infectious diseases spreading and that sort of thing. I'm not a medical doctor. I know basically nothing about that. But I know a lot about how economics works and how important the pricing signal is and how important it is to have people working in the economy to produce the things that people need. And so like, I wouldn't make recommendations to doctors how to treat, the coronavirus. I don't know, but I see all these doctors out there making recommendations as to how the economy should be handled. And I think that it's the same sort of mistake there. So like these infectious disease, specialists, the epidemiologists, they probably haven't spent much time studying economics because they spent their time studying how infectious diseases spread. And we want to make use of their expertise in that area. But if they're not experts in economics, we probably shouldn't make use of their advice in that area. So no, any more than they would make use of my advice as to how to treat somebody with the coronavirus. I don't know, but I can tell you, shutting down the entire world's economy, it's going to be an absolute disaster and probably likely to kill more people than the coronavirus will kill. And so that's another thing. Like another fantastic economist, if I can make another recommendation of people's books to read, is Frederick Bastiat. And so Frederick Bastiat was a French economist a couple hundred years ago, and he was talking about the seen versus the unseen. And that's exactly what it is. So like what we see happening right now is the government's printing a bunch of money, and they're going to give, in the US, I think everyone's getting $1,200 or something like that. That's what's seen, right? Everybody's saying, oh, you're getting $1,200. That's fantastic. What's not seen is where that money came from. So if it came from taxes, right, which in this case, most of it probably isn't, but let's say in this first example, it came from taxes, all that money that was taken from some people and then given to people, you can see everybody got $1,200. That's very clear and it's visible. But what's not seen is where all that money came from and would have otherwise been done with that money, right? Maybe somebody would have invested that in a new business that would have found a cure for cancer or found a cure for the coronavirus or built some other new invention that made people's lives better. But you don't see any of that. You only see what's actually done. And so any good economist needs to take a look at not only what's seen, but what's not seen. And so the same thing is true with all this, economic stimulus and this and that. That's what's seen. But what's not seen is all the businesses that are having their, capital crowded out in the competition to the market to do something. What new inventions aren't going to come into existence? What new hospitals aren't going to be built? What new schools aren't going to be built? What new amazing websites aren't going to be built that would have been able to make the world a better place? And so you have to consider both what's seen and what's not seen. And I think what's not seen is this, giant disaster that's happening in the world, and it's going to cause people to literally die. Like people will die. People die every single day from hunger. People die every single day from, diarrhea, from not having clean water. People die every single day from mosquito bites, right? Imagine if these resources would be able to, increase the world's, economic GDP by, an extra 1% this year and compound that over the next couple of decades, right? Millions and millions of fewer people are going to die from these, solvable problems. But if you have the entire world's GDP looks like it's going to shrink this year because of the coronavirus, right? That's millions of people are going to die because they didn't have access to clean drinking water, or they didn't have enough food to eat, or they didn't have enough money for, some vaccine that could save their lives. And so you have to take into consideration, okay, people absolutely are going to die from the coronavirus, like no doubt about it. But I think that a pretty strong argument can be made that more people will die from the giant global recession and the shrinkage of the world's economy than will die from the coronavirus. And so I think you need to take both those things into consideration.
Well said, well said. Okay, now let's kind of pivot. So you've left America, I believe, right? A while
yes,
back.
I have.
Can you kind of walk us through the story of how that happened?
Sure, but first, I guess, not to disparage America too much, but I was texting with a good buddy of mine yesterday, and actually, the place that I'm in right now actually just went on lockdown. Everybody stay home, don't go outside, and that's going to go on for at least another couple of days here or whatever. And his reply was, "Well, it could be worse. You could be in America." So for me, I thought that was a pretty funny joke. But how did that happen? So when I started reading all these economics books as a young kid, I thought, oh my God, the world could be so much better than it is today if we could just get the government out of the way of the businesses and the entrepreneurs to make these amazing inventions and improve people's lives. And I thought at that time that people just don't realize it. And if they realized it and could be educated on this topic, everybody would get on board and be really excited. Like, hey, let's get the government out of the way of the entrepreneurs so that, more Elon Musks and Steve Jobs and amazing people like that can bring amazing products to the world. And so I ran for California State Assembly as a libertarian candidate. I said if I was elected, I wouldn't accept any salary whatsoever because that salary would come from taxes, and maybe people wouldn't want to pay my salary there. So I didn't think they should be forced to. And I was invited to debate the Republican and Democratic candidates at San Jose State University. And in that debate, I called the ATF and FBI of jackbooted thugs and murderers in reference to all children that they murdered at a church group in Waco, Texas. For those that are old enough to remember the Branch Davidian compound, yeah, the adults there were, some religious nuts, but burning them all to death, including, I think it was like 50 kids that were less than 10 years old, literally lit on fire and burnt to death there. Like, you're not a good person if you do that. And that's exactly what the FBI and ATF did. And so anyhow, I called them a bunch of jackbooted thugs and murderers in reference to that. I was saying that we should get rid of all these taxes because it's making the world a poorer place than otherwise would have. We should end the war on drugs. All these things that turns out people that work for the government and whose salaries depend on the people paying taxes didn't like those things that I was saying as like a 20-year-old man, or 19. I was like 19 or 20 years old. I was really young at that point.
Wow, 19 years old, and you're trying to become.
I would have been 20 at this point. So
wow, pretty early.
It was the year 2000. So,
okay.
But I was saying all these things, and so I was also had a pretty successful business for only being 20 years old at that point. So I was selling a bunch of these computer parts online, and it was going pretty well. And I was also like any young man, I loved fireworks as a kid, right? Fireworks are great. Every young boy. In fact, I'm storing fireworks in my residential apartment here still, so some things never change. But I was selling these other fireworks on eBay, and this is back when eBay had a guns and ammo section, and there were dozens of other people selling this exact same product on eBay. Nobody had a permit. Cabela's Sporting Goods catalog was selling the same thing. I wound up being the only person in the entire country to be prosecuted for selling those. And so eventually I signed a plea agreement and I was sentenced to federal prison. So even while I was in federal prison, the company that I'd been buying those products from, they had no permit either. They were still busy selling that exact same product. And only later all these companies were ordered to stop selling them. And nobody else went to jail. I don't think anybody else even had to pay a fine at all. And so it was very, very, very clearly a politically motivated prosecution. And I just really felt betrayed and shocked, because everybody teaches you growing up in America, America's the land of freedom of speech. You can say whatever you want, and that's the beauty part of America. Whereas if you say what you think in Russia or China, you're going to go to jail. Well, it turns out in America too, if you say something that the government disagrees with, they'll try and send you to jail. And just look at what they're trying to do to Julian Assange or what's the man that became a woman that told us about the collateral damage? Wesley Manning, or now I forget what his female name is now. But anyhow, anybody that says things that the government doesn't like, boom, they're going to come after you. And so that really just kind of burst my Chelsea Manning. That's it now.
Yeah.
That just really burst my my view, shattered my view of the world and my esteem that I had for the American governmental system and this and that. So I knew as soon as I got out of jail, like I was never ever going to live in America ever again. And so the day I was allowed to leave America, I left. And that doesn't mean I don't love my American friends and family, and there's lots of wonderful, wonderful people there. But the American government's one of the most, totalitarian, warmongering, horrible states on the face of the earth. That doesn't mean the other ones are good. But America always loves to pretend like they're the good guy in every situation for everything. That's an absolute lie. And they literally starved to death more than 500,000 kids in Iraq, right? And yeah, the Iraq governments are bad. There's lots of bad, people in the Iraqi government there, and they've done lots of bad things. That doesn't mean starving to death 500,000 kids is justified, right? Imagine imagine some guy broke into my house and stole from me here, and I go chasing him down the street trying to catch the bad guy, and I managed to shoot, a bunch of innocent bystanders and kill a whole bunch of other innocent bystanders because I was going after one bad guy. I'd be tossed in jail forever because I hurt a bunch of innocent people. The U.S. government murdered 500,000 innocent kids going after some bad guy. It doesn't justify the murder of the innocent kids one bit. Yet they're literally on 60 Minutes saying, "Oh, I think it was worth murdering 500,000 kids." But everybody's brainwashed, right? They go through 13 years of government schooling where they pledge allegiance to the flag every day. And I went through that too. I was brainwashed with that too, thinking, "Oh, America's great. The government's great. America's the best country on earth." But no, it's a bunch of brainwashing. That's why they send all the kids to the government schools, so they can brainwash them and indoctrinate them from this young age. And they don't just do that in America. Everybody in every other country goes to the government schools from a young age, and they brainwash them in those countries too, that the government of the country that you just happen to be born in is a great one, and we're here to look out for you and protect you. It's all a bunch of brainwashing nonsense from a young age. And that's why they love having government schools around the world in every country, so they can brainwash all the people to support the governments in those countries too. And I I somehow managed to undo the brainwashing. I'd like to help more people undo the brainwashing. There's a fantastic other book called The Most Dangerous Superstition by Larkin Rose. If you read the book, like, you'll see the world in a whole new light. The Most Dangerous Superstition, and he's talking about the belief in government, because it's just a made-up belief that people are brainwashed from a young age to believe in. And at this point, I've lost track of what the initial question is. I think it was how did I leave America?
Yes, yeah. Now, to kind of chime in here. So when you so after that happened, did you have to kind of denounce being an American and hand in your passport, or did you just get a different passport?
So you have to do it in the correct order there. So so I moved out of America the day I was allowed to in 2006, and I haven't lived in America since then. And then at that time I looked really clearly as to what it would take to get citizenship somewhere else. And sadly, as a felon, it's much more difficult to get citizenship somewhere else. The nice part about it is some of these other countries have been reasonable. They think, oh, you sold firecrackers on the internet without a permit. You bought firecrackers from one website and sold them on another. That's not a crime in this country. And literally, there's lots of countries don't have. You can buy fireworks in the convenience stores in Japan, right? It's not a big deal. It's only a big deal if you speak out against the government brainwashing that happens to everybody. So anyhow, you have to get citizenship somewhere else first, and then once you have citizenship somewhere else first, then you can renounce your U.S. citizenship. They won't. This is another thing that was just shocking to me, is you're not telling the U.S. government that you're stopping to being American. You're asking them for their permission to stop being an American. And I asked the guy at the embassy, I said, have you seen people have the request to stop being an American be denied? And he said, oh yeah, absolutely. Their requests get denied all the time. It's a common thing for it to be denied. And it was just shocking to me. Like,
how?
In a sane world, yeah, you would think you'd tell them, okay, I'm not an American, see you later. And they would have to accept it. But no, they claim that they have the right to tell you, no, you're going to continue being an American whether you like it or not. And to me, that just seems like a bunch of nonsense also.
Now, from my perspective, because it's kind of interesting, I became naturalized American in 2017. And by 2018, I was already...
sorry for your loss.
By 2018, after making some money in crypto and getting heavy taxes, I was thinking about possibly getting a different country's passport just to kind of possibly leave. And I saw that they have an exit tax.
If anybody is interested in that, email me, roger@bitcoin.com. You can pay for the entire thing in cryptocurrency as well. And I'm more than happy to help you with that. I'm an expert in that at this point. And more than happy to help. So.
All right, awesome. Yeah, and I mean, it shocked me that they tax you on the way out as well. And to me, that didn't really make any sense at all. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I'm still here in America. Now, I mean,
America's a wonderful place, right? There's lots of fantastic things about America. Like, I don't hate America. I just hate, murder and theft and robbery and just all this, crazy stuff that the American government does. But I love my American friends and family.
So after that, you ended up going to Japan, and then I think Saint Kitts.
Yep. So I've spent a lot of time in both at this point. So my citizenship and nationality is a country called Saint Kitts, which is a little island in the Caribbean. I've spent a lot of time there since I came here the first time in 2012 was the first time I came to Saint Kitts. So it's been a while as well. And back and forth between Japan and Saint Kitts are the main places I spend time.
Awesome. And I'm guessing you don't really miss home or America much.
I do. Yeah, of course. So I miss my parents and my friends and family, and I miss a lot of things, sure. So, but I go occasionally. Eventually, I convinced the American government that I had zero intent of ever moving back there again, and they were nice enough to give me a 10-year multiple entry visa, so I can go to the U.S. anytime I want.
Oh, really? 10-year visa? Wow. Okay.
Yep. So I think I have maybe 7 years left on that visa. So apparently, they didn't think my crime was too serious if they were willing to give me a 10-year visa to allow me to come back to the country.
Awesome. Okay. All right. So fast forward now. What's the story behind Bitcoin Cash? How did you get involved?
Yeah, so I got involved in the exact same way that I got involved in Bitcoin. I saw a tool that could be used to bring more economic freedom to the world and strip away power from governments and governments to control the corporations and control the banks and control everything else, because people can send money to and from each other anywhere in the world. And in fact, one of the fun examples here I have in my wallet, I made these Bitcoin Cash gifts, and the first person that scans that private key there with the Bitcoin.com wallet or any wallet that can scan a private key, there's 10 British pounds worth of Bitcoin Cash on there. And so this is an example of things that can no longer be done on Bitcoin because the fees became too high on Bitcoin. As soon as Bitcoin stopped working as cash and as a payment system, and the narrative became like, oh, it's just supposed to be a store of value, you're not going to use it to pay people or buy or sell or do anything, like that wasn't the Bitcoin that I got involved with. That wasn't the Bitcoin described in the white paper. That wasn't the Bitcoin that made the Silk Road one of the most successful startups ever in the entire history of the world. That wasn't the tool that can strip away the power from governments to control people. So like, I would be embarrassed to promote BTC today, right? With its slow, expensive, unreliable transactions. Like, how could I, with a straight face, tell anybody ever, hey, you should start using this thing, it's called Bitcoin. It'll cost you, sometimes it'll cost you 10 cents, sometimes it'll cost you $1, sometimes it'll cost you $50 or even maybe $1,000 to send a transaction to somebody. And you're not even sure if your transaction is going to go through. And then they might be able to reverse it later. Like, I'd get laughed out of any business meeting anywhere if I tried to present that to people. Yet the original Bitcoin that had fast, cheap, reliable, irreversible transactions that became popular and started getting used by companies like Microsoft and Dell and Expedia and people all over the world, the thing that's called Bitcoin today still has that good reputation and name and branding, and so it's riding on its own coattails that were built up by people like me. But the technology that made Bitcoin popular to begin with is now alive and well in the form of Bitcoin Cash and a bunch of other cryptocurrencies as well. So it's really strange that people have this infatuation with Bitcoin is the brand, but the technology that works is now Bitcoin Cash or Dash or Zcash or a bunch of these other ones out there. So the BTC version of Bitcoin is the only cryptocurrency ever in the history of all, thousands and thousands of cryptocurrencies. It's the only one ever to have intentionally full blocks. What a stupid thing to do, right? Full blocks makes the fees unreliable and high, and it makes the transactions unreliable, and it makes the entire network unreliable. And so like, it's been an absolute disaster for Bitcoin to have the blocks intentionally become full. And I think a lot of people that are new to Bitcoin or new to cryptocurrency, they don't realize that that's the stated goal of the software developers behind Bitcoin. Is they want the blocks to be full and they want the fees to be high. And it was when I realized that was their goal was for the blocks to be full, which creates unreliable transactions and creates the fees to be high. When I realized that was when that's when I really started to pull my hair out. I thought this is an absolute disaster for the adoption of Bitcoin. The blocks need to always have room. The market needs to set the amount of block space that's being produced, right? The miners can decide what price they want to charge for inclusion in their blocks, and instead of a bunch of central planning, economically ignorant software developers that literally say, oh, the fees are $50 a transaction on average, pop the champagne, this is a huge success. No, it drove it drove me away from Bitcoin, it drove Microsoft away from Bitcoin, it drove Dell Computer away from Bitcoin, it drove everybody that was trying to use it as money away from Bitcoin. And everybody's, Bitcoin hit $20,000 and Bitcoin's currently $6,000. Imagine where it could be today if the blocks hadn't been allowed to be full. If Microsoft had never had to stop accepting Bitcoin, they had been able to accept it the whole way through. And it's so frustrating right now. We're having this worldwide, economic meltdown, and the government's going crazy printing money. So that's what we see, and we see, Bitcoin's at $6,000. That's pretty high. What's not seen is where could Bitcoin have been today, right? If we had not lost the last 5 years of merchant adoption and the 5 years of infrastructure being built, and if everybody hadn't been distracted with so many altcoins, this could have been a chance for maybe the entire world, the population of the entire world looked at this and said, hey, we have an alternative. We can use Bitcoin in commerce for everything, and we don't need to rely on the central banks and their $6 trillion of inflation here. We have another option. We have a plan B. We can use Bitcoin. But instead, because of the full blocks and the failure of the Lightning Network to be anything even remotely close to being usable in commerce, there isn't an option that's ready. Bitcoin Cash isn't ready yet today either. There's not enough infrastructure for it. Like, there isn't a solution today that's ready for the world to switch away from government-issued fiat currency. And I think there could have been a solution that was ready today for the worldwide economy to switch over to if Bitcoin hadn't allowed the blocks to become full and stifled its ability to scale for the world. And to me, that just it breaks my heart that considering where we could have been versus where we are today. And
now
we can't change the past. Let's build a better future.
True, very true. So what do you think is needed for Bitcoin Cash to eventually possibly surpass Bitcoin? Do you think it's just time, or do you think there's something else that has to be done?
I think it's awareness, right? Like if I invite everybody, please give Bitcoin a try, right? Send and receive some BTC from one wallet to another, see how long it takes, see how long it costs, see, try it with everything, right? Go and buy something from a BitPay, accepting website, or a BTC accepting website, give it a try. And then try the exact same thing with Bitcoin Cash. And then once you've tried it with both, in fact, I saw a guy commented on another video that I did the other day. He said, "Oh my God, I didn't realize how fast Bitcoin Cash was. Like, I just tried it for the first time. I've been using BTC before. Now I tried Bitcoin Cash. This is great. I'm now a Bitcoin Cash fan." And so I think if people would try both, they would see it. And please try Lightning Network. Try everything, right? Try everything and see what works for you. Try iPhones, try Androids, try something else. Try Mac computers, try Windows computers, try Linux computers. Give it all a try, and then just decide what you like and what works for you in your life. And there's no doubt in my mind whatsoever, if people try Bitcoin Cash versus what everybody's calling Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash provides a far, far, far better user experience. And so I would love more people to try both of those. And then I think having some more awareness that the thing that everybody's calling Bitcoin today, it has no white paper, right? It has the Bitcoin name and brand recognition, but there's no white paper. There's no, what is it, right? Is it digital gold? What does that even mean, right? Whereas in the early days, it was very clearly, it was meant to go head to head with the dollar and the euro and the yen. It was supposed to become money for the entire world that everybody would use to pay for everything on chain, not with these custodial wallets, not with these overly complicated, Rube Goldberg machines that they're trying to build now. It was right there on chain. And like I saw with my own business in Silicon Valley, right, selling optical transceivers and memory, I saw like some of the first things I was selling were like, 2,400 baud modems, and then 14.4K modems. And then by the end of my career there, we were selling 100 megabit optical transceivers, right? Like 100 gigabits, right? So like, that's like, I don't know, like 1.7 million times increase. I'd have to get out a calculator. It's such a big increase over the course of just 15 years or something like that. And there's a great quote from Satoshi. I don't have it in front of me, but it says something along the lines, and we'll have to get the exact numbers right, but like in about a decade, the computers will be 100 times faster and 100 times cheaper or something like that. And we'll have to get what the exact math is with with Moore's law there. But like every single year, this stuff gets faster, better, and cheaper. And yet somehow Bitcoin's still stuck at 1 megabyte base block size. Like, it's just absolutely ridiculous. And if I want to put my conspiracy hat on, and I know for a fact, because I was around in these days. So in 2011, in June, when Bitcoin, in the course of like 2 weeks, went from a couple of dollars to $30, and the main discussion platform was bitcointalk.org, where everybody was talking about it, suddenly there was an attack on that forum. The entire forum was flooded with all these fake accounts that nobody knew, and they were just posting buy, sell, crash, oh no, and they were just posting so much stuff that the forum became unusable. So during one of the very first, times where Bitcoin got mainstream media attention across the world, somebody out there, probably a government agency, successfully shut down the main discussion platform where people were able to talk about Bitcoin back then. So that was happening as early as 2011. And if you want to look at what happened later, they successfully shut down the main discussion platforms where everybody was talking about Bitcoin being able to scale to be money for the world, and they banned all the people that were advocating that Bitcoin should be money for the world. Who has the big giant motivation to do that? It's the people that produce all the money for the world right now and have these free printing machines where they can print as much money as they want at any time for any reason. They'd be really mad if the free market comes up with a competition to that where they can't print as many dollars as they want. And so, like, I don't think it's unreasonable, right? Like, people call it a conspiracy theory, but look at how many conspiracies turned out to be true. And so, like, I don't think it's too big of a stretch to think that the powers that currently run the central banks and have control of the money supply intentionally disrupted the ability of Bitcoin to become usable as money for the world. Like, I don't think that's a wild conspiracy theory at all. It is a conspiracy theory, but it doesn't mean it's not true. So
okay, all right. Well, I mean, that's definitely very interesting. So let's take a question from the audience. So on menti.com, once again, if you go to menti.com, enter the code 347512. That's 347512. Ask your questions. We'll also take questions from the comments section as well. So the first question somebody has is, okay, we can't really talk about pricing per se. He's asking, will Bitcoin Cash be great again? So I think it's talking about market cap. But just to kind of abstract away from price, do you think Bitcoin Cash will grow again? I'm guessing the answer is probably yes.
Yeah, the short answer is yes, but I think it's really interesting to look at it. It's like, so Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin BTC split was been about two and a half years now, about 2.5 years. So when Bitcoin was 2.5 years old, what that would have been? That would have been like 2011, right? The price of Bitcoin in 2011 was $10, right? Was probably the average price for the year or so. The fact that Bitcoin Cash is $200 and it only has had 2.5 years, because when that split happened, the BTC version of Bitcoin got the Bitcoin branding and name recognition and all the infrastructure. Because of the way the fork happened, all the infrastructure was forced and had to go with the BTC version of Bitcoin. So Bitcoin Cash had to start over from scratch to build all this infrastructure. And so the fact that it's at $200 and something in just 2.5 years, I think is an amazing sign, and shows, where was, and here's something to point out too. Where was the BTC version of Bitcoin 2.5 years ago? What was the price of that? I think it was probably higher than it was. Let me pull it up, and I can check for us right now.
Okay, no worries.
So the fact that the Bitcoin is doing so well. So 2 years ago, the Bitcoin price, so it's lower. It's down 10% over the last 2 years, right? And so I can't check 2.5 years. So when Bitcoin Cash first launched, there was a huge amount of volatility and spiked way up and way down. And there were a number of early Bitcoin adopters. They got a little bit too excited and bought in to Bitcoin Cash with too many of their Bitcoin at an early thing. But if you look at when the price had a chance to settle down with Bitcoin Cash after the initial split, and there was a lot of fury within the market, Bitcoin Cash has steadily been trending up in overall price. And I think that's going to continue. And again, I invite everybody, use Bitcoin Cash, use Bitcoin BTC. It won't even be close, right? Bitcoin Cash provides a far, far better user experience. So the question is, what will win out in the end? With the brand recognition of Bitcoin and the name recognition, or the bigger network effect for Bitcoin, or the better user experience of Bitcoin Cash and these passionate entrepreneurs within Bitcoin Cash that are the same early entrepreneurs that were involved in Bitcoin to begin with. So that's a question that we'll find out. And we shouldn't underestimate the power of the network effect of something. But look at for those that are around. A lot of people remember MySpace, right? MySpace was before Facebook. MySpace had a huge network effect. It seemed like nobody would be able to supplant it. But then their servers became overloaded, and people started having a slow, unreliable user experience, just like a slow, unreliable, and expensive user experience on Bitcoin. And people suddenly switched, and then Facebook became a big thing. And for people that are really old, like myself, before MySpace, they'll remember another thing called Friendster. And Friendster had a giant network effect, and tons of people were on it. And suddenly their servers became overloaded, and you started having a bad user experience because the connection to Friendster was slow and expensive in terms of the amount of time you had to wait for the website to load, and unreliable, and everybody switched. And I think that very well could happen with Bitcoin as well. At some point, there'll be a critical mass of some other platform that has a better user experience that's significantly better enough from Bitcoin to motivate people to switch. And maybe it'll be Ethereum, maybe it'll be Ripple, maybe it'll be Bitcoin Cash, maybe it'll be something else that we haven't even heard of at this point. But if Bitcoin continues to provide a slow, expensive, unreliable user experience, of course people are going to switch. Of course people are going to switch.
So quick question. Do you hold any Bitcoin, or have you completely sold all your Bitcoin?
Of course, yeah. I have a diverse portfolio. Like if you go and look at markets.bitcoin.com or CoinMarketCap or whatever, I hold some of just about all, probably the top 20 coins or something that are up there, and then a bunch more even below there. Anybody should have a diverse portfolio. So one of the coins I'm the most bullish on, to be honest, is Binance Coin. Like if you look at what Binance is doing with their coin, they're trying to get people to use it in commerce, to buy and sell and pay for things. Like that's the right strategy. That's the strategy that Bitcoin should have had the entire way, instead of diverging from that thing. So like Binance Coin is great in the fact that they're trying to get people to use it in commerce. And like Ethereum is amazing. Like look at all these amazing ICOs and technologies that are able to happen on there. And Bitcoin Cash with their token platform is amazing as well. Like I don't know if people know it, but you can make a token on Bitcoin Cash in like 10 seconds over at mint.bitcoin.com. But the really cool part about it is those tokens, you can then send and receive them with anybody out there. Then you can then pay dividends to those token holders. So the tokens now act like anonymous bear shares. They can receive dividend payments. And I'm not aware of another chain that has the ability to do that, where you can send anonymous dividend payments to token holders of any token on top of the Bitcoin Cash blockchain with the Bitcoin.com wallet or any other SLP Bitcoin Cash token supporting wallet. And I think that's a really big deal. We're going to start seeing more and more companies start using that dividends feature on top of Bitcoin Cash. I'm
Pretty
really
cool.
excited about that. But I'm a competition maximalist. Like anything that works, great, use it. Like I love Ethereum. I love Monero. I love Zcoin. I love Zcash. I'm a big fan of all the privacy coins. And that's one of the things I'm so excited about and bullish on Bitcoin Cash. We're about to have privacy in the same ballpark of Monero built right into the Bitcoin.com wallet. Once we finish integrating a Cash Shuffle into that, really, really big deal. You can already have really strong privacy in your Bitcoin Cash on your desktop wallet right now. If you head on over to electroncash.org and download the desktop wallet, you can have really, really strong privacy on Bitcoin Cash. And that's not to say anything bad about the Moneros and the Zcashes of the world, but you can't pay with your Monero at BitPay. You can't pay with your Zcash at BitPay. You can't pay with those currencies at more than 100,000 websites. You can with Bitcoin Cash. And so once you can pay at more than 100,000 websites with super, super, super private Bitcoin Cash, that's a really, really big deal. And I think we're going to see a lot more adoption happening because of that.
Awesome. Okay, so next question from the audience. How many people became anarchists because of Bitcoin?
I don't know. It's the seen versus unseen. I don't know, but what I have seen is I get emails pretty often that people, they tell me like that they were attracted to Bitcoin because they thought they could make some money. And it was through getting involved in Bitcoin. They heard about voluntarism and they heard about libertarianism. They heard about Austrian economics. They heard about Murray Rothbard's, and they started reading that sort of thing. And then their eyes were open to that, and now they see the world in a whole new light. And they send me these emails saying, "Thank you for helping open my eyes to seeing the world more clearly and seeing the government for this giant criminal gang that they are. That everybody's just been brainwashed into Stockholm syndrome. It's just plain and simple Stockholm syndrome." There. So I love it when I get emails like that. And I get emails like that, messages like that fairly often from people. So it's those are my favorite types of emails or messages to receive.
All right. So next question. Do you think mining centralizes networks?
Do I think mining centralizes networks? So I think they're asking like mining versus proof of stake is probably what he's getting at. And I don't know, although I know one contrarian opinion that I have from a lot of people in the cryptocurrency space. A lot of people hate ASICs and they think that ASICs are bad, and they keep changing the proof of work mechanism of coins that once ASIC miners come out. And I think that that's mistaken. I think that's misguided. If you think about it, people that spend the time and money and effort to produce ASICs, and then the people that buy those ASICs to mine a specific coin, and assuming those ASICs can't be used to mine any other coin, those are going to be your most passionate, most devoted, most loyal cheerleaders for that coin. So I like Monero. Like Monero is an awesome coin with the privacy that it has there, but I just shake my head when I see what a lot of the software developers in the community with Monero are doing to basically drive away adoption in business. And their slogan is literally, don't buy Monero. And then the Monero mining ASICs came out, right? The people that were mining Monero with ASICs were going to be the most dedicated, loyal Monero fanboys in the entire world because they have a bunch of ASICs that aren't usable for anything else. So they're going to be out there telling their friends and their grandma and their business, hey, check out Monero, go and use Monero. You can buy some more Monero ASIC miners over here. We should be able to start using it everywhere. And instead, what did they do? They pulled the rug right out from all these super dedicated Monero people that would have been out there, cheerleading for Monero day in and day out because they thought that it would be a good idea to, have a GPU or CPU mineable proof of work for Monero again. And I think that was a mistake. And I say that as a Monero holder. I want these people that are super passionate, like the people that build ASICs for something. They're going to be the most passionate members of that community that have the most invested capital and money to make sure that coin succeeds. So I think that's a mistake to shun ASICs and to think ASICs are a bad thing. ASICs are a good thing. And it really builds a strong community around a coin once you have a bunch of ASICs that are out there available for it.
All right, next question. What percentage of the mining on BCH are owned by Roger directly or indirectly? And when should we expect BCH mining to be independent?
So what percent of the hash rate that's mining Bitcoin Cash is owned by me? Zero. I have all my miners we turned off. I used to have some. I used to have 50 petahashes that I own myself, and we turned that off, I don't know, 6 or 9 months ago now when it stopped becoming profitable. And we sold the mining equipment. So I own zero hash rate myself. So none is the short answer.
All right, cool. Somebody's saying, Roger, you're a better advisor than Nomad Capitalist. I think he's a content creator who talks about leaving the the states and all that stuff.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. I love Nomad Capitalist. And in fact, we're having a conference. I'll be speaking at their conference coming up here in Cancun, Mexico. I believe it's in November. And you can head over to nomadcapitalist.com for information on that. And I love their YouTube channel. If you're interested in expatriation or offshore stuff or all this sort of stuff, their YouTube channel is fantastic. I love watching. So Andrew Henderson is the CEO over there. I saw him in the audience in Singapore, but I didn't get to talk to him. But I love his YouTube channel, his content, and I can't wait to go to that conference in person. So if you want to join us in Mexico in November, please do nomadcapitalist.com. So.
Awesome.
And
we'll check.
And I think they're the experts. Although I've been around too. So.
Okay, so next question from the audience. Do you have plans to still break up the Satoshi into something smaller than 1 Satoshi per byte?
The mining fee, yeah. So that's absolutely on the roadmap. So, and I've been around long enough. I remember when almost all Bitcoin transactions were free, like back in 2011, 2012, and on into 2013, almost all BTC transactions were completely free. And I'm not saying cheap, I'm saying zero fee. And the way the network worked is if the Bitcoins hadn't moved for more than a certain number of blocks, then it was totally free to move your Bitcoins. If they had just moved recently, then you had to pay a small fee. And I think that's a great idea. And that's on the roadmap for Bitcoin Cash again, so that we'll have some completely free transactions again. And you only have to pay a fee if you just moved your Bitcoin Cash recently. And I think that's a great way of doing things, because if you haven't moved your Bitcoin Cash for a long time and now you're moving it today, that doesn't mean you're trying to spam the network. Whereas if you just moved your Bitcoin Cash a few minutes ago and you're moving it again, maybe you're spamming, maybe you're not. But if you pay a fee, then that's great. The miners can decide what fee to charge. So the short answer is yes. The fees will be going even lower on Bitcoin Cash. And the current network fee for an average transaction is like a 1/10 of a penny or a 15th of a penny. So it's basically free already, but it's going to be completely free for some transactions here again soon.
All right. Next question is from Ms. Suit on YouTube. Roger, what do you think about being censored on the Bitcoin Reddit?
Yeah, I think it's really Bitcoin's supposed to be uncensorable money, and the fact that the community from within started censoring free speech, like strong arguments don't need censorship to win out, right? And so like that's what the government does. Like they hate WikiLeaks because WikiLeaks is exposing the truth. Like what sort of crazy world do you live in which you want to like ban people from being able to have opinions? And unfortunately, that's exactly what happened on our Bitcoin, which still is probably one of the most visited platforms in the entire world for discussion of Bitcoin. And so it was really amazing. The big blockers were the majority within the Bitcoin ecosystem when the censorship started. We were the majority in terms of hash rate and everything else out there. It was just a question of how to implement it. And then once the censorship started, and the only opinion that people were allowed to hear were, big blocks bad, small blocks good, Roger Ver bad, Bcash sucks, all this stuff. It's just like when you go to the government schools from a young age. Everybody around you pledges allegiance and says, government great. You believe it because that's what everybody around you is saying. Once everybody within that was coming to cryptocurrency were only allowed to hear that, Bcash sucks, Bitcoin Cash sucks, big blocks bad, Blockstream good, Bitcoin Core good, everything else sucks. Once that was the only thing they were allowed to hear, they believed it. Just like if you had grown up hearing that the world was flat, you would believe that too. And so I think it's horrible, and more people should speak out against the censorship that's still going on to this very day on both our Bitcoin and BitcoinTalk.org. It really is really sad more than anything else. And so break out of your censorship box there.
Yeah, I mean, I find the tribalism in crypto really, really ridiculous, and I think it's something that definitely puts off anybody who's joining the space, because it's almost like joining a cult. Because everybody with whatever cryptocurrency they're fanatics of thinks that's the one and only crypto that's going to change the world, and anybody else who is not on board is a pagan. So I find that to be really, really childish in the space.
Totally agree. So I kind of feel like it's like nationalism or racism, where you just look at, oh, those people have a different coin than me, so they must be bad because I like my coin. And it's just like, different things are different, and you can be a part of anything, right? So give all these coins a try. So I've been a competition maximalist. I've never been a single coin maximalist, shown by the fact, like a lot of people, it's kind of funny, they don't know it. Like I was literally the second person ever involved in Ripple. So Jed McCaleb, the founder of Ripple, reached out to me and said, hey, I have an idea on how to make Bitcoin that doesn't require mining, because he said, I think mining is wasteful. It uses a bunch of electricity. We can make Bitcoin that doesn't need mining. Are you willing to fund me to try and build that? So like, okay, sure, let's give it a try. And so that was in 2012. So I was literally the second person ever to be involved in Ripple in that sense. In fact, he even invited me to be the CEO at one point of Ripple. And I said, no, I don't need or want to do that. So a lot of people don't know that. So even when I was busy funding things to compete with Bitcoin, because we didn't know if Bitcoin was going to be the best cryptocurrency out there. And today, I don't think it is, but I'm happy to still fund other, new altcoins out there today. Maybe if you have a compelling reason why you can build something that's even better than all the other coins that are out there, like, man, let's talk, let's try and figure it out. But it's hard because the network effect is incredibly important as well. And so I'm the most bullish about Bitcoin Cash because it has a big network effect and has an amazing user experience. And I think it has the best chance out of all the cryptocurrencies out there being able to strip away the control of government over the world to control people's finances. And tomorrow, if I thought Ripple had the best chance at stripping away government's ability to control the economy, I'd be cheerleading for Ripple day in and day out. If I thought it was BTC again, I would probably be cheering for BTC to be able to do that. It's whatever has the ability to give people more control over their own lives, their own finances. That's what I'm going to be cheering for day in and day out.
All right. So next question is from Alejandro on Facebook. What do you think is going to happen after the halving?
So this will be my third halving, and I think the same thing's going to happen as the last two halvings. Nothing. I think it's just going to be a non-event.
All right.
Yeah, the price will be volatile like it always is, right? Like the price is volatile when there are halvings. The price is volatile when there's no halvings. Like I think it'll just be another day on the roller coaster of being involved in crypto.
All right. Next question is from Ernest of Gaia. What's the best way for a farmer's market and vendors to adopt Bitcoin Cash?
So we have this awesome app. It's open source. It's called the Bitcoin Cash Register app. You can download it in the Apple, App Store or the Google Play Store. It's called Bitcoin Cash Register. And in literally 30 seconds, you can be set up to accept Bitcoin Cash. And the way it works is you can link the Cash Register app to deposit to your Coinbase account, or to deposit your account at local.bitcoin.com, or deposit right to your Trezor wallet at home under your mattress. Basically, it's just a fancy QR code generator that displays a QR code to receive the payments, but the payments get forwarded to whatever wallet you specified in the settings. So it's a really, really fantastic tool. And I feel like Alexander maybe threw me a low ball question there, or a softball question there. So it's called the Bitcoin Cash Register app. And it's not an exaggeration to say that Bitcoin Cash is the easiest cryptocurrency to start accepting at your physical business right now today, easier than any other cryptocurrency in the world. So check out the Bitcoin Cash Register app to give that a try.
All right. So next question from menti.com. Somebody's asking, are there any plans to rebrand the BCH logo? Because it looks like the BTC logo.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. So I'm checking the paper wallet that I held up. Oh, so earlier in the show, I held up this QR code so somebody could claim the 10 British pounds. Somebody already scanned that one. So I was checking with my phone there.
Oh,
but you know what? I have some more. So here's another one that's a different 10 British pounds at the time I did it. So the first person to scan that with their Bitcoin.com wallet gets 10 British pounds right there. So anyhow, I got distracted there. What the question one more time?
So are there any plans to rebrand the Bitcoin Cash logo without the Bitcoin logo? The person is asking.
Yeah, I don't think so. The biggest argument over that is orange versus green. And I think green is probably going to win out in the long run, but there's still plenty of people using orange, and there's no central authority to decide for that. So.
All right. Then what's your take on proof of stake?
Let's give it a try, right? I think Ethereum's headed that way, and there's probably some other coins that have already done that. So may 1,000 flowers bloom, right? Give everything a try, and then use the things that work the best. And if proof of stake can work, great. But I'm a fan of proof of work because it has a 10+ year track record of working really, really well. Mm-hmm. So that makes me, at this point, somewhat biased or lean towards proof of work because of that track record. But proof of stake, feel free to give it a try.
All right. Next question from menti.com. What is Roger's opinion on Jeffrey Epstein's sex ring and the important people that are being hidden by the government from prosecution?
Yeah, the most interesting conspiracy theory I heard in regards to that too is that, like, nobody knows where Jeffrey Epstein got his money from. Like, how did he have all this money to have, all these fancy houses and private jets and zipping around and this and that? And the conspiracy theory was that he had been hired by some foreign government or somebody out there to go and basically entrap all these powerful people in America. It's like maybe the Russians, maybe the Israelis, maybe whoever, right? Maybe it was the Saint Kitts government, right? Who knows? Hired Jeffrey Epstein to go and entrap all these powerful politicians. So like maybe, they're on there with the crazy girls and there's, a hidden camera in the jet or a hidden camera in the house, wherever. And they have these cameras of these powerful people in American politics doing inappropriate things with these people. And then they can use that to blackmail these politicians to get whatever policies towards Israel or towards Russia or towards China or towards St. Kitts or wherever. That seems like a pretty effective way to get the U.S. government policies to be favorable towards your nation. Is you hire some guy to get a bunch of crazy sex films on that, and that's certainly a conspiracy theory. But just because it's a conspiracy theory doesn't mean it's not true.
It's real. So I definitely recommend anybody, if you haven't yet watched the show, The Americans on FX. It's also on Amazon Prime. Great show about just that. And
it covers these topics, or I'm not familiar with that show.
Yeah,
so covers this.
So it's about a Russian family that came to America and was really just spying, and while living the normal American life. So they're basically Russian agents in America, living the American life, but the entire job was just to spy and entrap local.
And this is all true?
Yeah, all true, right? So all this was happening during the Cold War, right? So they're called The Americans. I think those have some other names for them, but it's definitely pretty exciting stuff. Definitely recommend people go.
I'll give that a look. Thank you for the recommendation. That sounds very interesting. So, but other than that, I haven't dug into the Epstein stuff too terribly deeply.
All right, so let me get some more questions here from the audience. Let's see here. Sorry, just give me a second.
No problem. And there's just such a big world with so many people and so many things happening and so many topics. So yeah, and thank you again for the opportunity here. I really love getting to reach new audiences. So
okay, yeah. So this is just a comment. Medic Will Crypto says he took the money in the wallet. Thanks, Roger. That's great.
You're welcome. I'm glad. Should we do one more? I think I might have another one in my wallet here.
All right.
Here we go.
They love it.
I've been stuck at home, so I can't hand these out like I do normally. So here's another one. The first person that scans that gets 10 British pounds. I was in the UK very recently, so I had these printed up ready to give out as tips. So let's see. Now I'll pull my phone and we'll see if somebody already scanned it as well. So the money's still on this one. Nobody claimed it yet.
I'm sure somebody will claim it. Okay, so while you're doing that, next question that you have is somebody's talking about cash fusion. What do you think of cash fusion? Will that bring adoption?
So cash fusion is what I was talking about before. So this is amazing tool for Bitcoin Cash. It'll give Bitcoin Cash privacy in the same ballpark as Monero. And so you can start using cash fusion. There's a Telegram group where you can get an alpha copy that I've been running on my own computer. It works great already. But we're going to build this cash fusion protocol right into the Bitcoin.com wallet. We've had more than 11 million wallets created with the Bitcoin.com wallet. So now suddenly we're going to have all these Bitcoin.com wallet users. They'll have fast, cheap, reliable, and super private transactions will be available to anybody anywhere in the world with like a $20 smartphone. This is going to be a really big deal for the adoption of Bitcoin Cash. And it's one of the things that I'm most excited about integrating into Bitcoin Cash and the Bitcoin.com wallet. So if you Google Cash Fusion, you can find the Telegram site, or maybe I'll send you the link afterwards. You can post it in the show notes. But I'm really excited about Cash Fusion coming to Bitcoin Cash. And it's a really cool thing that's happening.
Yeah, that sounds exciting. So we typically like to ask guests on the show a group of questions. So let's kind of put you in the hot seat.
I'm ready.
It's not quite the hot seat, but it's our own version of the hot seat, just to kind of learn more about you as a person. So the first question is, what are 3 books you've read that have changed your life?
Ray Kurzweil's The Singularity is Near really made me lose interest in conventional politics, because I think the way to supplant all that is through technology, and then just build technology that makes government impotent. That's a better way to do it. So anyhow, Ray Kurzweil's The Age of Spiritual Machines.
It's about
is
AI?
one. What was that?
It's an AI book?
Yeah, it's about how it's basically about Moore's law and how you keep going, with Moore's law, and year after year as computers get better, faster, and cheaper, and then you can calculate like about how many neurons are in the human brain, how many connections each neuron has, how many times per second they can fire, and you can calculate, roughly probably in order of magnitude about what the processing power of the human brain is, and then you can see what the processing power of the 286 versus the 386 versus the 486 versus the Pentium 1, the Pentium 2 versus on and on and on. And then you can see, oh, here we're getting not too far away, and maybe by the year 2030 or so, you'll have a computer that's not too terribly expensive that can have the same processing power of the human brain. And even if we don't know how all the software in the human brain works, if you can simulate every single neuron within the human brain, and you can simulate consciousness effectively, right? And then if you can do that at that point, well, then step it up from there. And it's like right now, the smartest things on the entire planet are people, right? And so people are building the next generation of chips, the next generation of phones, and next generation of everything. There's nothing smarter on the planet than humans, but we're building better and better tools to help us humans build the next generation of tools. But once the smartest thing on the planet is something other than a human, and that non-human intelligence is then building the next generation of non-human intelligences, there's just this explosion of intelligence available to the universe to do all these cool things. So like if I had to choose a word for my religion, it'd be like an extropian. And an extropian is somebody who wants to increase the amount of intelligence in the universe. And I think the best way to get to being able to increase the amount of intelligence in the universe is through more economic growth, right? More economic growth leads to better, faster, and cheaper computers that are able to simulate the human brain, sooner rather than later. And then we can get to all this amazing stuff happening sooner rather than later. And so that's what I'm really excited. So one book, The Age of Spiritual Machines by Ray Kurzweil. The Ethics of Liberty by Murray Rothbard is another one that just lays out here's how the world works, and there's just so many good ones. I have a hard time choosing what another great one is. I think probably Man, Economy, and State by Murray Rothbard also is one that really helps you understand clearly how the world works.
All right, so just to repeat those books for everybody, The Singularity is Near, and then The Ethics of Liberty, and Man, Economy, and State. All right.
Yep.
So
those are three that really influenced my
we'll check
view
those
of
out.
the world a lot.
All right. So next question: outside of your family and friends, who are three people in history who have inspired you? Well, history or past or present.
Yeah. So Murray Rothbard, without a doubt, the author of two of the books I just recommended, really changed my entire view of the world when I found his books and his works and started reading his stuff. So really been inspired by Murray Rothbard's incredibly clear thinking. And if maybe I have to recommend a fourth book, The Economics in One Lesson by Henry Hazlitt is also another great one. You can maybe start with that, and if you enjoyed it, then you can read Man, Economy, and State. Man, Economy, and State's like maybe 1,000 pages, whereas Economics in One Lesson is maybe 100 or 200 pages. Anyhow, Murray Rothbard's one. Ray Kurzweil is another, right? The authors of these books just really inspired me, like the stuff they got done. And then another just amazing guy that they don't teach you about in the American, government schools, but he's probably one of the most interesting people in American history. Is a guy called Lysander Spooner. Lysander Spooner is an absolutely amazing, he's one of the most amazing people in American history. They always teach you about Thomas Jefferson and George Washington and all these other, politicians that were a lot better than the politicians we have today. But Lysander Spooner was a really amazing guy. So he was an anarchist way back in the day. He literally, he wrote a book in, 1840 or something, back when, slavery was still a thing in America and it was popular and everybody knew that we had to have slavery because otherwise how would the cotton get picked? And he was literally writing books saying in defense of runaway slaves, right? And he was defending hey, if a slave runs away, good for him. The people that are trying to arrest him and bring him back to the slave owner are the bad guy. And he wrote another book called No Treason, the Constitution of No Authority. And if you read that book, it's only 80 pages. Calling it a book might even be a stretch. It's a long essay. But if you read that, he just absolutely shreds the idea that the United States Constitution is binding on anybody whatsoever. It's just a fantastic, fantastic book. And you can go and read his Wikipedia page, read about him online. He was just such an interesting character in history. So he set up a private post office to compete with the Pony Express, and the government was trying to shut him down, saying you're not allowed to compete with the post office. And he was just doing all sorts of really, really interesting stuff. And so Lysander Spooner is another just really amazing person that died long before my time. But if you read about him, you think, wow, what an awesome guy.
All right, cool. Then last question. What are 3 actions you took that have transformed your life?
I think realizing that it's better to save money than to spend money, or the only things that you should spend money on are things that are going to earn you more money in the future. And so that definitely made a big impact. So like all the money that I was earning from memory dealers, like I could have gone out and bought all sorts of frivolous stuff, and I didn't do much of that at all. I took all that money and spent it on things that would earn me more money. And so that put me in a position when Bitcoin finally came along. I had a nice amount of capital that I could deploy into Bitcoin to making that a real thing. And if I had just been spending all that money on Lambos and this and that, I wouldn't have had the capital available for.
Now, what kind of things did you put the money in? Fixed income investments?
Mainly real estate. Mainly real estate. I bought a whole bunch of real estate in America with the money that I was earning from memory dealers, and then rented that. It was rental real estate, so both commercial and residential, and then rented that out. And then so I had it was nice too. So like with the rental income there as well, if the other business failed or there was a problem with that, I had diverse sources of income. So if one wasn't doing well, hopefully the other would be. And so diversity in investing is really, really important as well. So.
All right. Any other actions you took that transformed your life?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Other actions. Reading books. Read more books. I like reading books. It's so amazing. It's like you can sit down and have a one-on-one tutoring session with some of the greatest minds that the human race has ever produced. Mm-hmm. And you can sit there and just download their thoughts and their ideas. And so reading books is just such an important thing to do. You can literally be tutored by the best human beings that the human race has ever produced. What more could you ask for than that? So.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's been a pleasure, Roger. Where can people learn more about you and kind of find more info on you?
Yeah. I think you can find more info on the things that I'm interested in working on over at Bitcoin.com. So I'm the founder of Bitcoin.com, and I'm busy trying to build tools to enable more people to have more economic freedom and more control over their own lives all over the world over at Bitcoin.com. Occasionally I tweet. Roger K. Veer is my Twitter account. I really need to update it. I have a very outdated website at rogerveer.com, but maybe during the coronavirus lockdown, I'll find some time to update that as well. So.
All right. Well, it's been a pleasure. Great having you on. Definitely quite the story. And we'll be in touch. And thank you to everyone for watching. Definitely please like, subscribe, and share this video. I think it was definitely very fascinating as well. So once again, thank you, everybody. And as we like to say, the moon is not the limit, to the moon and beyond. Thank you. Since the creation of the internet, every industry has been turned upside down. Amazon changed retail. Uber changed transportation. YouTube changed video forever. With the invention of crypto, money is next. At the speed technology is growing, the future of money and securities are digital. 9 out of 10 millennials do not trust banks. The value of money relies on trust. Government debt is higher than it's ever been before. Central banks continue to print money. Fortunately, the world has a new solution. Experts predict in 7 years, 10% of the world's economy will be in crypto-based assets. Today, 1 billion people have access to the financial industry. Crypto is about empowering the other 6 billion people by banking the unbanked. Do not underestimate this. Do you wish you invested in Google, Amazon, or Netflix before anyone ever knew about them? $1,000 invested in Netflix turned to over $500,000. At Token Metrics, we help you find the next Netflix. Token Metrics users think differently about investing. They are early adopters looking for financial freedom. They are people who see a better world. A world without international borders. We believe in a world where everyone has access to the next financial revolution. At Token Metrics, we are creating a bridge that gets you to that revolution. We will help you make sound investments in this new world. The world's best investors do not rely on their intuition. They embrace technology and AI to invest. Token Metrics uses AI to find invisible patterns in data to help you invest and trade in crypto. In the past, we have used our data-driven system to achieve financial freedom. Now, we are giving you the keys. We created Token Metrics to be the only platform you'll ever need to make money in crypto. We give you AI and access to crypto experts at the best price.